That's a barrier with the union. And we have to know we're in public education on that particular aspect, because to say you're going to coordinate that in work and then say, this information that filters back, that is something that this organization, if I was putting a thing on, I'd say we're in the developing stages, because we're not ready for that to occur, because there's not enough trust and there's a lot of other things going on. But eventually, that's where we want to be. Because if you have a culture that says, you're here to help us, not catch us. And so it's okay to have something come back to performance so we can look at that and say, how can I get better? So if you've created this culture of improvement, then eventually I hope we'll be there. How about the board? We looked at, there's a good cluster, and you just look again. That's what we're doing, good. Individual goals, return to collective goals. Now, had you done that before? This is a snapshot.
We done it at 9? Or?
Oh. Okay. So this was a snapshot as kind of what we're doing as we move forward.
It was an attempt.
Okay. Now, who's our outlier?
Yeah, right off the beginning it says board in name only, and that's why I felt like the last several years, and in fact, that's the public perception I have guaranteed.
Oh.
In fact, when I said I was coming here, the board was going to meet with the superintendent. They said, well, what for? The superintendent will tell you guys what to do, and you go do it. I said, well, we're supposed to be in charge. And he said, you guys don't do anything, do what you're told. Rubber stamp. And
I'm glad I don't know these people that you talk to all the time. I get such a different kind of feedback than you get. I'm really glad I don't know these people.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is it does put it in perspective, because your perception is from the constituents you're hearing. We've got 4 that are clustered, in the growth area. So that's a perception we'll have. We know there's a constituency out there that has that perception. There is a difference at a board meeting you have an idea where the superintendent would like you to go. And I'm very upfront with that, because I tell you, I don't hide things. But you have to decide by asking questions. And if you have all your questions answered to your satisfaction, you're comfortable. To me, you didn't rubber stamp. You asked the tough questions, you got the information you needed, and then you made a decision. Boards that rubber stamp, and I don't want you to do that, is we go to the meeting, you know what I want, you might ask one question or two, and boom, we're done to the next agenda item. I don't want that, because it's the value of the conversations that, and I'll tell you how I've benefited and it's helped me as a superintendent. Boards have asked a lot of conversations, and almost always they do support the recommendation. But those conversations and those questions and those concerns that are raised are now in my things to do list. So they are so valuable for me because they help in the implementation. When I had to close a school, I had 7 public forums, and I had people that were very angry about their school being closed. I listened, and I knew I still had to do that. But the things that they talked to me about, you're not prepared to do the transition of parents. Okay, I've got to have a whole plan about how that would happen. What about your transition of, students, and how are you going to, what happens to all the materials? They basically gave me little pages of things that I needed to do. And to just wind this up, a month after into the next year, the transition went so smooth that they were going like, what were we worried about?
Out of anger comes the best plans.
Yeah, but they actually gave me the ideas behind what I needed to do to implement the plan. And if they hadn't done that, that wouldn't have gone off without a hitch in September. And people were then saying, wow, I can't believe it. And I said, you know why? Because you're the one that suggested we have a picnic for all the parents that are going into this new school and all these things for kids. So in name only, no. You should ask questions. Ultimately, you vote what you think is in the best interest of the kids. But the important thing, whatever that vote is, and I hope you can do this because it's tough, if it didn't work out the way that you wanted, you're all behind it in terms of, okay, how do we make it work? Because I wouldn't be very effective if you took a vote for me to do something and I'm not behind it. I say, well, you know what, I'm not doing it. That's not my job, that's not my role. If it's a 3-2 vote, and you want me to do something, then I'm gonna work on it to happen. And if I can't do it, I'll come back and say, here's what I've tried. I don't think this is working. Do you have any other suggestions? You know, and I will never, you know, someone needs something. How about your financial resources? You're all pretty much as mature.
No, I'm way out to that.
Way out into that. Oh, no, one second. We have someone else in the room. Let me just look at maturity for a minute. Now, maturity is, so the people that are on the right, it says adequate tax base achieved. So you're feeling that you're getting enough money for the taxpayers to do the job. You've got a balance of your funds. You're covering most of your needs. Okay, so let's look at the chronically undercapitalized, always playing catch up. Is that you, Paul?
Oh, that's me.
That's Rich.
That's me.
I need.
It's red with black in the middle.
Okay, thank you. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Last year, when it came time for budget time, 2 years ago, the first year on the board, I believe we got the default budget. And last year,
Which is a raise.
what?
Sorry, mumbling to myself. I'm not
Then
supposed to.
last year.
Couldn't
I
control
heard you,
myself.
so it wasn't to yourself.
Couldn't control myself. No.
Last year, we voted for the default budget. The board said the regular budget would be the default. But in fact, I'm the one who made that motion. I think the problem is, in my mind, is that we don't, there's a lot of things I think we should be doing in the district, or could be doing, that we don't have adequate funding for. And the people aren't going to be giving us more money because they perceive they're giving us too much money as it is. So that's why I voted for that. I don't think we're chronically undercapitalized.
Okay.
But again, I don't think we are at the point where we're getting everything we need. I think we're somewhere in between those two.
Okay.
So, I mean, I look at the elementary school, and I look at what happened in Weir. They actually tore down their old school and put a new one up.
Yeah.
I mean, buildings have a limited lifespan. They don't go on forever. And I think, you know, if we said this year, listen, this is what we want to do, it would be shot down. You know, the committee, I mean, it wouldn't be the time to do it, but.
You can forget the down and just be shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a perception, and I think it matches, I'm gonna kind of summarize it, matches a personal dilemma that you're having, which is part of you, you know there's a question in perception in terms of, are we using the money we're getting from the taxpayers wisely? So the perception is, are we using that wisely or not? And then the counter to that is, do we have enough money to do some of the things that could really move the system to another place?
That's true. I want to back up just a little bit. You know, when Paul said board in name only,
Yeah.
okay? I want to, when I was not on the board these last 10 years,